Hello and welcome to the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship live on Apex Racing TV and live on the iRacing Esports Network. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick. Alongside me is Daniel Lee. Scott Newton on the cameras this evening, and we are preparing for this round 3 of the championship. And we are at a very foggy moss spot. I have never seen conditions like this, Daniel, on a broadcasted race. To be honest, it is possible you can whack up the fogginess on the sim, and it's pretty cool to see it in action. But from this blimp cam we're currently watching from at the moment, you'd be hard pressed to pick out too many cars.
Yeah, good evening, Sam, and to all the viewers tuning in. Great to have you on board. Yeah, it's a bit like driving through a pea soup at the moment, Sam. That's one for you, mate, from Britain. But look, it's very technical and tricky conditions for all the competitors out there. Not only is Motorsport a difficult track, even in the dry, trying to get up through the moss corner, the double right-hander there, throw in the added effects of the weather conditions as well, and it's just going to make it an even more difficult challenge for these drivers.
Absolutely, we've seen a really competitive championship so far. Ross Rizzo doing particularly well in the last couple of rounds, but at the moment it is Trent Thomas at the front in this practice session. Of course, the Jazz have already completed the qualifying session. There'll be 2 or 3 splits of this championship because there's so many drivers who want to enter. It's so well organised. It's such a fantastic space that loads of people try to get into this championship, but only the top drivers get into this top split. So it really is some high quality racing predicted out here. Pretty short circuit as well, but I mean, Ross Rizzo so far this season, as I was saying, him and his team have been absolutely terrific so far, and it just seems like they've been able to unleash a little bit more out of that car. And Rizzo has gone from an outside championship contender to, dare I say, one of the favourites, because really previous form in this championship doesn't count for a whole lot. Drivers rarely defend their championship, and so I think after these first couple of rounds with the championship lead, I think Rizzo's really put himself into the forefront of contention.
Absolutely. I mean, even in past championships, Rizzo wasn't a driver you discount from taking a win or being up there in the points. I think the setup didn't quite favour his driving style in the Ford last season. However, with the changes that were made by the race stewards behind the scenes and the equalisation of the balanced performance, it's really ignited a bit of a spark in the Ford. And for Ross Rizzo, it's really helped him get what he needs out of that car. And as we saw over the last couple of events, it's been a very strong car, and he's driven faultlessly to get that car up to where it is. He's going to be a little bit more challenged tonight. Obviously, the long back straight here is definitely going to favour the likes of the BMW. But for what he's been able to do so far in that car, it's fantastic.
Yeah, the BMW with a few more Ks, we think, down the straights, it could be a slight advantage for the drivers running that car. Of course, you have to run the same car for the entire season, so that is why we have a bit of an ebb and flow as the championship continues. It is really good, but it is Rizzo on pole position again. What a run of form this has been. Craig Edwards lines up in second place, and it's Trent Thomas. Tom Huggan, the Pro driver, starts in 4th. He's had a strong start to the season as well. Simon Nicholson lines up in 5th, and it's Sean Coran. Great to see him back, because I wasn't sure if we would for tea, but it is nice to see the 95 up there as well on the 3rd row of the grid. Jeremy Clark, good qualifying for him, up in 7th. Then it's Kane Ryder, Nathan Huppertz, Warwick Brown, Martin Crisp, Joshua Thomas, defending champion, quite far down the order. Thomas, he has looked a little bit out of sorts so far this season, yet to pick up a podium. Michael Healy, very disappointing qualifying for him. I believe he won last time out at Alton Park, but only 13th on the grid for this round of the championship. Then it's Adam Gardner, Robert Christel, Timothy Phoeben, Aaron Specchio, Adrian Vlock, John Poose, Mitchell Bales, Matt Morris, Amanda Dalton, Grant Madaford, Nathan Anderson, Hayden Smith-Smythe, Lockhart Brownlee, Joshua Burden, Ryan Kolstad, and many of the admins. Apologies if any of that was wrong, by the way. Yeah, just going through the rest of the field on your screen, which should be a little bit more reliable. Very short formation lap because we have round this circuit. Just going to quickly go around the first few corners. In fact, no, it is just going to be the full lap because a pretty short circuit as normal. And it is brilliant to visit these circuits, Daniel. We spoke about it last time out at Alton Park. Very unique start to the championship. I mean, Donington Alton Park, then Motorsports. We haven't visited these circuits for so long in this championship. I do remember one of our first broadcasts on Apex Racing TV of this series was round this track. I think that was about 3 seasons ago. And these other circuits as well that we're visiting are very unique. And I think it's really turned the championship on its head. I mean, we talk about how nice it is to be here, but from a driving perspective, it is almost a completely different ballgame when you're going from GP massive circuits to these much more kind of national and club level circuits.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been a really great change that the series organisers have taken to take that little bit of a shift away from the traditional calendars that we do follow. Primarily, it's the IMSA series and does switch between that and ILMS. So to have something completely different and out of the field really makes the drivers focus on getting that practice in where they can get familiar with the circuits. And we've already seen it over the first 2 events. The change in track style has really come into its own. It's actually caught a few of the regulars off guard a little bit. So I think they're now starting to find their feet, having gone through 2 events. This should be a great circuit. And I know last time I drove around this place, I absolutely loved it. So to be out here tonight in a GTE will be a fantastic thrill for all these guys.
Absolutely. 3 different manufacturers up in the top 3 places. For Trent Thomas from that 3rd place. So if he could get ahead of Edwards, then that would really give Trak Esports a good position in this race. They are the team to beat at the moment. It's the Ford of Rizzo who is the car to beat. As we start under green flag conditions at Motorsports, and we are racing in Canada. 3 tenths of a second clear for Rizzo already. Edwards did well to hold back the pursuit of Trent Thomas down into turn 1. Good start for Jeremy Clark to get past Sean Curran, who does often struggle off the start. Joshua Thomas as well making up a place. Great start for Jason Benz, gaining 3 places. He's up into 13th as they make their way through the first couple of corners. So tricky that turn 2. We'll have to watch out for a few incidents of drivers potentially skating off the circuit. But I must say, so far, the driving has been very good. Worked roundly, battling with Joshua Thomas. I think Thomas momentarily getting ahead there, but does just drop back in behind. Thomas has to make progress. He is faster than these drivers, defending champion, of course, but he is well out of position after a disappointing qualifying just behind there. I think that was a move from Jason Benz just defending from Michael Healy, who's had a poor start race win from last time out, down into 14th.
Yeah, and Aura getting through Moss Corner, the double right there, without any issues as they set down the long backstroke for the first time. It's a really good spread. Everyone's managed to get themselves into single files. You see Healy just being a little bit defensive there with Ben Dowell. Right behind him, Rob Crusdale getting into this battle also. But up front, the main protagonists have got away unscathed and looking to start extending some advantages where possible.
Pit stop mandatory in this race, or pit stop necessary really, it's a better way of putting it. Drivers will not have enough fuel to get to the end of the event. And of course, fixed sets up for everyone, and all these cars are pretty evenly matched. The real kind of divide between the cars is just what you run in IMSA, and you tend to want to run the same car you run in the official series. Just ahead of Bradley Sanders, Janssen and Hoos. That was a good move from Janssen. We saw so many offs in the ARLTC Championship the other day on Thursday. It's actually losing another place there. Hoos actually loses the rookie lead as well. But Stripe represents rookie drivers. But we saw so many incidents on Thursday in the ARLTC Championship. Surprised that so far the grass hasn't caught out too many drivers. Do watch out for that later on. If you do dip well onto the grass with this new time model, it's easy to skate off into the barriers which don't lie too far away. It's a very high-speed circuit. Joshua Thomas still trying to gain places, but happening for him at the moment, remaining in 11th place.
Yeah, it's not an easy run for him here, trying to get the big Porsche through, or BMW through, as you see Michael Healy in the background just touching the pit wall there, trying to make a move around. I think that might have been Jason Benz who's trying to get a run on there, not fortunate enough to. But for Healy, it's a bit of a struggle here trying to work that car back up through the field. So he's going to have to pick his time and be cautious of where he can get those moves completed.
Going into the double rights, Moss Corner, the second one of these. So tricky, one of the most tricky parts of any iRacing course, I would argue. As Healy gets way too much curve on the inside, he's going to lose another place here. Dal moves his way past. He did have a good round at Alton Park. Joe, who I haven't seen too much, I believe, taking his debut this season, or this season is his first season. He's been very impressive so far. He's just dropping backwards. It's Gardner next, although at least Adam can't make his way past. This might well be a drop round for Healy, but in a 12-week season, you have 8 sprint rounds. If you drop one of the sprint rounds, you probably will have a DNF at some point. So you can't afford bad results. You really do need to get the most out of every single round that you take part in. Nearer up to the front, Simon Nicholson. Amateur driver, remember. Nicholson up 1 place. Has he recently made that move on Hagen? As what ground is off the circuit. I wonder if he skated off at turn 2. And if you do that, that's usually game over because of the high speed you hit the wall at.
Yeah, it's a really tricky one to try and slow the cars up there. Obviously, recent years, there were the additions made to the circuit in real life where they have a big concrete runoff now. Unfortunately, iRacing yet to rescan and update those track features. But yeah, the minute you come off that into that grass, it's a really tough effort to try and pull those cars up or even get it turned just enough to squeak it through and miss that barrier. So looks like he's back underway with not too much concern there. He's still showing in 13th spot. So I think it might have just been a little bit of fortunate luck there that's got him through. Quickly, we should touch on it as well, Sam. There have been some adjustments to the BOP following last race out, and the BMW has gained 3 kilos. The Ford has stayed, well, actually lost 3 kilos, moved down to no weight penalty added, similar to the Ferrari. The Porsche is struggling a little bit. That's the most handicapped car out there tonight with a gain of 8 kilos, while the Corvette has had 7 kilos added to it. So in the interest of trying to balance up the field, quite a few swings comparative to last season, which I think is maybe for the Porsche, it will come back into play a little bit later on as it gets those tyres coming up.
Yeah, because still learning how fast the Dal has had enough. And Healy, they were battling for 14th and 15th. And they have come together. Oh, this is going to be Healy's drop round. There is Dal. It's just spun. That's a very awkward position to get back onto circuit traction control in the cars. As we see a replay of Britt Wilson. This is that incident occurring, and so a few drivers losing out right there. It was with Ben Dal as well. And yeah, just track extending a little bit, flipping the grass, and that is a big problem for Ben Dal. After a good round, seemed to have good pace to Dal, but unable to put it into a race result. Rizzo being kept honest. 6/10 of a second, these two pulling away from the rest of the order. Trent Thomas, usually so good in qualifying, struggles to back it up in the race. As far as I'm aware, at least Daniel, I've not seen Trent Thomas win a race before, but you may well correct me on that one. But he's come close many times. Barcelona comes to mind when he was very unlucky not to take the race when he was on fresh tyres near the end of the race.
Yeah, I haven't seen him get across for a win in the time that we've been covering the series, but as you say, he's been thereabouts. A few unfortunate things have occurred which have prevented him getting those wins, but he's definitely overdue for one, and a bit of a stalwart in this series so far. He's been around for quite a long time, and I think since he's found a really good rhythm since moving over to Trick Esports a few seasons ago, it's really sort of helped get him up there. Admittedly was already a quick driver, but has really found a little bit extra in this car.
Yeah, and even in even when you don't need to do the setups, the team is still very important. Just helping yourself out. Of course, if you've got good morale as well, you're willing to put in those extra few hours of practice. But, that is absolutely fundamental to gain some good pace. Sean Curran is in a tight battle with Kane Ryder. Ryder might have the better line here. It's on the outside going into the double left. You'll have the inside for Moss corner. Is there contact between the two? And that is ever so close. Will there be contact again? Oh, that was absolutely no start. I think they've made contact probably a couple of times there, but fortunately not enough to really hold one another up. Ryder is up into 7th position then. That was a great move. Curran might try to come back here, but Ryder has got the draft. as there's been quite a hefty crash between Joshua Burton, I believe Bradley Sanders as well. A couple of the guys just dropping outside of the, well, they didn't actually lose too much, but just certainly did lose a couple of places between them, just going off the circuit seemingly at Moss Corner. This is the tightest pack that we've got out on circuit at the moment. This basically does come down ever so slightly. And Jason Benz as well. Just losing time for these guys does. Warwick Brown has had another off. And it seems like that's at the final corner, or maybe turn one. And Brown is down to 19th now. Too many mistakes right now.
Yeah, a little bit untidy from everyone going around, so still need to smarten that up. As you see in the background, the Fusion sim racing car, Nathan Huppert, just collects that outside grass and rotates the Corvette around. Gets a quick little flick swing. He's going to have to be cautious there because one of the XRC cars coming through, I think that might have been Martin Crisp actually coming back through. So fortunate to get that car rotated back around, and that will drop him quite a few spots down the order now.
Not the season that Harper's wanted, not the season and a bit for Harper's. After so nearly winning 2 seasons ago, season 11 I believe it was, season 12 not going his way, season 13 so far not fantastic, but one of the best drivers of the championship. 24 degrees track temperature at the moment, and it is in the morning. Let us know on the YouTube chat or however you're watching this. Let us know what you think of the foggy conditions, if you quite like the look of it, or whether you would rather it goes away. I mean, personally, as commentators, I think we need as much aid as we can. Ooh, that's off the second for Karan. And that was miles off there, Daniel. That wasn't tipping a wheel on. He was sending that miles away. He's very fortunate not to hit the wall.
Yeah, that's a big lose through a very high-speed corner of the circuit, so fortunate to get that one back underway. Here's a look from the onboard shot. The initial run down the hill looking quite good. Just loses the back, and it's a very easy thing to do, just pushing that fraction too hard. He kept it off the tyre barrier just by the looks, so no harm, no foul, but yeah, just needs to settle it down just a touch there. I think having those cars ahead not helping him too much. As we see Nathan Huppert's again in trouble. That's the second time that car's had some issues, and that was on the exit of Moss Corner there, so not going from slightly bad to worse for Nathan Huppert's, unfortunately, there.
Adam Hughes ahead of Brown now, of the Jacob variety, I believe. Directly penalty for car number 754. Martin Chris, thank you for leading the name, stewards. We appreciate that one. Saves us a little bit of time to go through and figuring out who that was. So yeah, Martin Chris with a penalty for a lap 7 incident.
Yeah, we just see a little bit of contact there as they work their way down off Moss Corner there. Yeah, tough one for Chris there. Not able to get that car far enough alongside, collects the rear quarter and rotates the Donate Life sim racing car around. So he'll unfortunately have a tour down the lane to serve that penalty. He's in pretty well straight away to get that one taken care of. As we move back up to Kane Ryder, he's still got Josh Thomas stuck in behind him. The number one on the door of Thomas's car, still struggling to find a way through the field at the moment. And he's got a bit of tough competition ahead with Jeremy Clark, Tom Huggan, just the next few cars up the train here. So interesting to see where, for Thomas, he's able to place that BMW and whether he's able to utilise the run off the exit here. He actually closes up a little bit through the exit there at Moss. This might be a good opportunity for him to try and gain one more spot on the way up towards the top 5.
Yeah, it's been decent progress so far. I just wonder if maybe Thomas could come into the pits, but I think he'd come out in too much traffic. We're expecting, well, some drivers who have already come to the pits. So Michael Healy's come in, Adam Gardner in, Joshua Burton into the pits. Also John Hughes, Adrian Lichty came in on the last lap. Ben Dallas just come out of the pits, but they're nearly a lap down. Oh, Kane Ryder. That's another place gain now for Joshua Thomas. Ryder's now made a mistake. Such a tricky circuit, this. I don't have to say that, really. But we see so many mistakes around this place, and Ryder is another victim of that. Fortunately for him as well, he has avoided the wall. Did lose 7 seconds, according to the timing screen, because of that incident. There you can see down to 11th place behind Aaron Spitcher, who's up 10 places now. Spitcher, very under the radar, but he is top of the amateur drivers now, is Spitcher, which is quite an impressive run for him. As we see a drive-through penalty for Joshua Thomas. Was that for, I think that must have been with Ryder then. Did we see that one then, or just like away, or did we just miss that? Did we just pull away in before?
No, I think we just missed that, but that would make sense as to what has happened to Ryder there, because he's dropped down quite a few spots following that contact, because we did see him just previously up in the 7th position. See if we can drop back to the replay. Here it is. Thank you very much, Mr. Newton, for getting that one. And it's up into a similar spot down into that final corner before you get up onto the front straight. And another one of those ones where the car just not quite up far enough towards the B pillar, making contact on the rear quarter and ultimately rotating the car ahead around. So Josh Thomas now going to have to come through the lane and serve that penalty, but also going to have to think about where he wants to come in later on for the second, or the mandatory stop that he will need to make for tyre fuel tonight.
Just things look like they were getting positive from him. It was a really ambitious move from Thomas. I don't really know what he was thinking on that regard. I don't know if it was a misjudgment or a genuine attempt to go for a move, as Edwards getting pretty close now to Rizzo. Now, from Alton Park, and I didn't use much science for this. I will just be, didn't use much science. Didn't look like the Corvette was very quick down the straights. It looked as though it was losing time. It looked like the BMW was the fastest and the Corvette was the slowest. And of course, they're all on the same setup as well. So that is pretty much there's not much variation between each of the cars. You can see it's got quite a skinny rear wing though. iRacing do model that. But I do think it struggles down the straight, does the C7, as far as I'm aware. And it did look like down that back straight, despite being pretty much in the draft, the gap only came down by maybe 1/10.5, 2/10 of a second. So if Edwards is going to make this move, it's got to be probably about 1/4 of a second behind coming out of Moss Corner, which is so tricky to do because you do get a bit of a concertina effect. The car ahead will always be on the power earlier than you are. And that's pretty much the only opportunity I can see for Edwards to make this move, although I know he's a very good driver, so he might be able to come up with something crafty. 0.4 of a second this time, and that is too far back. Also, Rizzo gets a bit of a draft as well from Amanda Dalton, who's about to go lap down. I don't know what's happened to Dalton so far in this race, but only about 0.7 of a second slower on that last lap than the leaders. Hasn't come into the pits, but is about to go a lap down. In fact, that's not Dalton. That's someone else. That might be Adrian Lichty. About that, they're just catching up to ahead. But yeah, Edwards getting the gap back down to 3.5 tenths. Does seem to have the advantage to the corners, but yeah, not enough straight line speed at the moment. In that lap, just losing a little bit of time through each of the sectors. I'm sure he will be back soon. Of course, could go for the undercut. Hughes is in this one with Jay Boving. Hughes is up 16 places and comes into the pits. Had enough of that. Remember, stay on the same set of tyres. Only 45-minute race, not worth changing tyres. That leads to about 25 seconds if you're going to do that. But just take a little bit of fuel, probably 10 to 15 seconds we usually see. Should be about 11 or 12 with this relatively low fuel consumption circuit, as are most of the circuits this season being
Bales also had a very quiet run so far tonight as well, up 14 spots from where he started, down in the 12th position now. So a nice quiet run for the MF Racing Corvette there. And that, he's got Jacob Brown just behind, and this could be a good opportunity for Brown here to gain another spot. And he's one of those drivers who has gained quite a few spots already, up 15 as well. So potentially 16. And next car up the road, only 3 seconds with the car of Matt Morris for Velocity Motorsports.
Do we know if there's a relation between the two Browns?
As a incident on the final corner there. It was one of the DPR cars involved in that. Adrian Lechty is able to get that car finally rotated around. And fortunate for the drivers we saw looking there, one of them was able to squeak through, but here's another look at how that one unfolded.
So contact between
that was a very weird one. Corner mid on the exit of the second to last corner there, and then see that car hard up against the wall.
Or Rizzo Hamilton
out front, however, two leaders continuing on. Rizzo and Edwards, 0.3 of a second separating these guys. They've gained quite a handy gap now over third place Trent Thomas, and that gap now to 3.5 seconds.
Edwards still can't quite get past. Actually lost a little bit of time there, did Edwards. So he was even closer on the previous lap of race across the start-finish line. Thomas 3.3 seconds behind, making any impression. Although he did lose, he did actually gain 0.7 of a second that last time, did Trent Thomas.
This fight here, it's a good opportunity here for Edwards to see whether he's able to squeak that car past. Doesn't look like he's going to be fortunate to do so, however, as they run up through Moss. Does manage to close that gap down 0.3 of a second. This could be a very good opportunity here for him to get that car through.
So, yeah, 0.3 of a second. Does Rizzo blink? No. Last time out, we saw Trick Esports cars coming in before their rivals, one of which was Edwards. And it worked brilliantly for them. Rizzo managed to go from third to second, and he managed to stay in the lead. And I was skeptical of the move, because, of course, if you come in early, then you don't get any fresh tyres. You just kind of have to run a couple of laps on heavier fuel. If you're coming into traffic, it can be the wise decision, and if you're really desperate for some fresh air, that can be the way to go on occasion. Brown into the pits, Huppert's into the pits. Not surprised about that one for Huppert's. His race all but wrecked already. And the leader's still line astern. 4.5 of a second. Again, he needs to get down to 0.3 at the most. Probably 1/4 of a second in order to get past, because that bet is just struggling for pace. No further action between 7.07 and 7.37. It's like we're going plane spotting. I don't actually know if 7.07 is a plane, but let us know. I know 7.37 is. Apparently 7.07 is a plane, so that was a very good joke from me. I'm pleased with that one. Matt Morris is off the circuit, not in the pits. Off the circuit is the elite driver. That's final few corners, I assume. But he is quite a bit behind now. That's, I think, might be halfway around the lap, but Morris, here it is, yeah. It's not even halfway around. For Moss corner, and you can see the damage on that car. He has not come into the pits, at least, says Morris. That lost him loads of time there. I think it was a little bit of a tricky rejoin as well for him. Sean Curran into the pits, but still. Yeah, top 14, staying out on track, waiting until probably just beyond the 30-minute mark, when the fuel will be completely depleted for these drivers. Morris, I imagine, will nip into the pits. You'll hear the siren go. There you go. Apparently we don't have it on broadcast. What a shame that is. What a shame that is that we don't have that. It is incredibly annoying, and it is so loud around this circuit. as well, so I am quite relieved. Amanda Dalton up into 17th. Um, yeah, I was saying how Dalton was nearly a lap down earlier on. That must just be my timing screen playing up, but she is actually doing pretty well. 17th, yet to pit, however, of course. So we'll end up behind these Jazz. I think has recently been overtaken by Joshua Thomas, who came in for the early pit stop. Thomas matching the race leaders at the moment in pace. So the leaders of the drivers who have come into the pits is Kane Reiser in 15th, Joshua Thomas in 16th. Those guys were on the fringes of the top 10 before the pit stops occurred. So the leaders are certainly safe from them, but that battle for kind of 5th to 15th places is very hotly contested at the moment as Dalton does come into the pits. And pretty much all of the midfield drivers have now come into the pits, only a few exceptions. You can see how tricky it is if you qualified low down on the grid. Just to get into your pit stop, there's really not a particularly long pit lane around this place, so they have to cram in all the pit stalls that they can. I believe you'll have shared pit stalls as well, as such as the amount of drivers that we have out on track. Mitchell Bales into the pits as well. And he'll drop quite far down. Tom Huggan up into 5th place now as Huggan, former amateur champion, of course, for XRC Racing. Wasn't a fantastic first season in the Pro Division last season, but he has improved this championship, and maybe the Ford being a bit more competitive than previous has helped him out on that front. It's half a second behind Nicholson in that battle for the top. Pro drivers as Michael Healy is off the track, and I think this could be a tow. No, he's keeping it going. I thought that was him preparing to tow back to the pits. And this is how it happened for Michael Healy, and it is a day to forget. You want all your mistakes or your bad luck to come in one round, because then that's just one round, which is terrible. You can throw that one away, make it your drop round, and that is what this will be for Michael Healy, because after looking so strong at Alton Park, he has been a long way off all the way today.
Yeah, unfortunate for Healy there, just dropping that wheel and going back around. I just wanted to finish to say when we were talking about the pit stops just before, Josh Thomas did come down the lane, but that was to serve that drive-through penalty that he got for contact. So still yet to come down for his official stop yet tonight.
You're right. You are absolutely right. Got good pace though. 13.3, faster than the race leaders on that last time out. That's why qualifying is so important. And qualifying, sorry to bang on about the track section, but I'm genuinely hyped about the tracks that we're visiting this season. And this season you will need to be better at qualifying, because we saw at Alton Park it was impossible to overtake unless you had half a second a lap on the other driver and some fantastic racecraft. It was impossible to overtake around that track, and this is kind of similar. This is more like it though for Meadows. Here we go. This could be his best chance all race long. He has to get at least alongside on the brakes, but that Corvette, it's gaining a little bit. It's not enough. He'll force his rival offline now. Will either then come into the pits. This might be a brilliant time to come into the pits, especially if you're Rizzo, because you will be able to get the outside line, because it looks like he's going to lose the race lead here. Is there contact between the two of them? There is, and Rizzo hard into the wall. Edwards moves into the lead, and Ross Rizzo, who has been so great. Oh, and there's more contact with Specchio, I believe that was. And they're both going to lose out. In fact, I think it was a back marker, and there's more contact ahead as well. What is going on? And further up the road, I think Huggan? No, maybe it was a couple of back markers. John Puce, I think, and Adrian Glock had come into a collision with one another. That was separate from the incident with Rizzo. And in a championship where Rizzo's got a fantastic chance, he looked so good, looked like it was going to be another easy podium, maybe a race win, and that has very quickly escaped his grasp. Now this could be quite a big momentum change in the championship. Here it was, Daniel, and I'm not sure if either driver did anything wrong. It looks all fair play.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one because Edwards was well along the inside there, didn't really have anywhere to go. Unfortunately for Rizzo there, he's got to turn in at some point, and I guess that's always the issue you have when you run two cars side by side, especially through diminishing radius corners as those ones were. So it's a bit of a tough one. I think potentially, and we'll have to keep an eye out for race control, there could be an unsafe rejoin entry for Rizzo there as he tried to get that car back away off the wall, because we did see it go into reverse and come back out. So we'll keep an eye on that one. But yeah, it's a tough night for what was looking to be a very good night for the Trick Esports car of Ross Rizzo.
Edwards in, maybe just to get a faster fix any aero damage that he picks up from that. So Trent Thomas now leads, but that's not a proper lead for Trent Thomas at the moment. But I mean, Rizzo managed to get back to the pits. Where has Rizzo coming? He's actually ahead of Thomas. He's behind. He's ahead of Ryder as well. Something else happened to Kane Ryder. I just wonder if something else has happened to Kane Ryder, perhaps. But Rizzo is in 11th place, so he's actually second place out of the drivers who have already pitted, although now a few more drivers are coming out of the pits. I don't think it'll be looking quite so good for him. There he is in 9th place. He's behind Huggan, so that will be 6th or 7th place for Rizzo now. There'll be some points lost, but not too bad. He was very fortunate that he was so close to the pit entry. He crashed.
Yeah, definitely. I was just going to make note of that. It was a very fortunate spot to be. I mean, we could have had a spot where we saw his teammate
Healy
go around. Healy, sorry, yes, Healy in the Porsche at Moss Corner there. I mean, that's still it's most of the way around the circuit, but it's still a long drive to get that back. Fortunately for Rizzo there, I mean, as you say, we saw into that final tyre barrier, was able to get it turned back around. We're going to assume he's used the fast repair there, because there was also that secondary contact with the BMW that looked quite hard as he was trying to get that car rotated around. So to be at where he is at the moment, having completed the stops, not too bad. We should see him start to gain some more momentum and start working his way through. Admittedly, we are still waiting to see, though, whether there is any further penalty for the re-entry, but nothing at this point has come through from race control, as there is similarly another drive-through penalty for Adrian Leckie for a similar infringement for unsafe re-entry. So another drive-through there going the way of Adrian. We've got a stranded Ford there by the looks on the start-finish line. Not sure who's in control of that car, but that was stationary.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a very debunked Brett Wilson. That's taking a bit of a facelift. No further action between 928 and 7 and 8. Get the words out. So that was the Edwards Rizzo instant, and it was deemed netcode between the two. Then we didn't get a fantastic angle of it, but yeah, that did look quite suspicious. I mean, from both that's a really tricky one to go side by side, because on the inside you're gonna have to check out. It's just the way that the corner is. It's a high-speed corner, and when you're on the outside, you think, oh, I've left that guy enough room. So both will be annoyed, but I think that's a very good call. Racing instant deemed, and a bit of netcode as well involved in that. Fieben into the pits. He comes out in 11th place, 12th place. I think he'll be a bit lower than that. I haven't talked about Timothy Fieben all day. He qualified in 19th place, Daniel, but I don't know what's happened to him all day long, because usually he's one that we look at, the former champion, but yeah, barely seen on camera.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a slow run up through the field for him. He hasn't really come to grips at the moment with the Porsche. Looks like he's trying to get a move done on his teammate Adam Gardner there, but the Porsche this round just seeming to be struggling a little bit. I'm not sure whether qualifying just didn't work out for Fieben or not, but yeah, maybe one of those tracks that, and everyone goes to it, one of those tracks where you just don't or can't extract the most out of that car. He's going to need to be cautious, though. There's contact with, I think that might have been Aaron Specchio there, and that will potentially see a penalty Specchio's way. Fieben was able to rotate that car around and get going, but that's a bit of an awkward spot. We're going to see also a change of position with Huppets working his way through it.
That's no further action on lap 25 between the triple one, who is Bradley Sanders, and also the 925, which is Karan. What a shame it's been for Karan, running as high as 6th place early on. Qualified very well. but it can never seem to get these results in Korea. I'm sure it will click one day and it will have a stellar run of like 10 consecutive top fives or something like that. But at the moment, it's not happening for him, despite clearly having a lot of pace for DPR racing. Trent Thomas lighting up the timing screens at the moment. 12.98. One of the first drivers who's got into the 1 minute 12. Only Rizzo has otherwise got into the 1 minute 12 so far. And that was his personal best of the lap last time round. What is it? This time 13.01. That's another good lap. So he seems to be lapping at the moment about 0.2 of a second quicker than Craig Edwards. Before the pit stop, apologies, Trent Thomas already into the pit, so he's ahead of Edwards. Apologies, I missed that one. And so we have got Trent Thomas leading the way. Odd that Edwards lost the leads, I must say. Daniel saying that he didn't seem to lose that much time from the incident initially, but lost it during this pit stop sequence.
Yeah, it dropped down quite a way as a result of that. So, going to have a lot of work for himself to do. He's got one of the XRC cars ahead, yet to come down the lane in the form of Simon Nicholson. Jeremy Clark, actually has been in the lane. Jeremy Clark right behind as well. So, Edwards just in a little bit of bother there. Didn't quite time the pit stop to where he needed. Ultimately, he had that contact as well with Rizzo, which certainly didn't help. But just didn't quite get the stop all there for what he needed.
Apologies for myself not noticing that. I pride myself on knowing kind of what's going on with the strategy and whatever, but slightly dropped that one. Perhaps it won't happen for the rest of the season. But yeah, Thomas leads then. I just didn't think he'd come into the pits, but he did actually come into the pits some 4 laps ago, which isn't very long ago around this circuit, but still. So Trent Thomas, who we were saying hasn't won a race, we believe, in this championship. He may have done, he has been around for a while. I don't believe he's yet taken the top step of the podium. In fact, I think we may have chatted to him at Spa in the last round of last season and discussed about that. And I believe he said they hadn't really took a big step up last championship. But he's still 5 seconds ahead of Simon Nicholson. This would be one of Nicholson's best results as well. Although Edwards is on his tail. That Corvette play, this is something we're going to see, I think, for the rest of the season. The raceability of the C8 is not there, seemingly. If you haven't got enough straight line speed to be able to make overtakes, then you can be as fast as you like. Fortunately for Craig Edwards, he is one of the best qualifiers out on the grid. But there's a lot of other great qualifiers out there. And so if Edwards ever needs to gain a lot of places in the race, or heck, just pull off one move for the race win, that will be a weakness seemingly for him going forwards for the rest of the rounds of the championship. It's something worth considering. Tom Huggan trying to get past Jason Bentz, who somehow has been able to move up a load of places, has Bentz. And he's actually stayed in 5th place. And now Huggan's got to be careful from Rizzo. Don't go to the perimeter of the circuit, guys, because you'll be straight up into the barrier. Good move there from Ross Rizzo. He's recovering places. He might get a 5th place out of this. And with Edwards only in 3rd, that would be minimum points lost for him. Rizzo up into 6th place now. But of course, Bentz was stationed for 12 seconds. Huggan with a very long pit stop, 16 seconds. Not sure what that was about. But that's why he is not ahead of those drivers. And of course, Rizzo with that hit into the wall earlier on. Nicholson still having to keep an eye on his mirrors, but Edwards not close enough again.
No, just struggling a little bit in the straight line in that Corvette at the moment. That being said, I'm surprised too, with the BMW behind in the form of Jeremy Clark not able to take any real advantage of the double toe either. So these cars just lacking a little bit of top end performance. But at the moment, there's not much really separating either of these 3 cars. We check out their times across the line. Last time by 13.49 for Nicholson, 13.44 for Edwards, and a 13.46 for Clark. So they're matching each other all the way through the lap. Each car has a slight little bit of performance advantage in different sections, which is what we would expect out of this multi-class event, but just not the opportunity up the top end for either of these 3 to sort of either make a bit of an advantage or get an overtake done.
How close is it this time? It's a bit further back, I think, for the Corvette. I think intense. And we saw this around this circuit at in the Apex Racing Academy GT4 Championship, and we hosted that race back when the BMW was so quick down the straights. The BMW GT4, that is, was so quick down the straights. And the Porsche was much faster in the corners, and so the Porsche was the faster car, but the BMW was so quick down the straights, and you could be right on the tail of the driver ahead and be losing time down the straights. I think just with the way that this configuration is, you haven't got straight line speed, then it's very tricky to make a move anywhere else on circuit. I mean, I say that, we have seen moves into turn 3, and maybe this is going to be his best chance, Edwards, but Nicholson's just too quick, U2. And then into the double left and the double right. Really no way through around that part of the track. Good battle going on further down, actually, with Matt Morris, Amanda Dalton, Joshua Burden, and Chris Whitesell. Seen a couple of changes there. I think that's Whitesell getting ahead of approaches Burden getting ahead of Whitesell. But these are very close. As for 27 down to 30th places.
Yeah, not much separating either of these cars. The pace really good again through all of them, and good sort of disparity across the three manufacturers. So, I mean, we've got the Ferrari out front, the only Ferrari in the field tonight in the form of Matt Morrison. He's already come up 13 spots over the course of this run, so it's been a good drive for him so far. The guys behind it similarly come up, but again, just struggling a little bit to make these cars work where they need to get the passes done. But yeah, it's a good little grip forward, just scrapping on the outside of that top 20.
Ross Rizzo getting up into 5th place. He's got past Jason Benz. As we see a replay of how this happened, and Rizzo recovering some important points. 6 seconds behind Jeremy Clark, but I think if anything, he'll be relieved about that. This will be quite a comfortable end to the race, and he'll feel like he's got everything out of it. Netcode sent him into the wall, albeit he might be a little bit annoyed that he allowed Edwards to get quite as close as he did. Seem to have Edwards at an arm's length distance, but then seemingly just made a small mistake around Moss Corner, and it ended up with Edwards getting alongside, contact between the two of them, and it sent Rizzo into the wall. Clark, they're more likely to make a move now out of this trio, within a 10th and a half. Such a quick right-hander though, barely on the brakes for these GTE cars. So you have to be well alongside if you're going to go for the move. Can start to see some superb side-by-side action around that piece of the circuit. But we can see incidents as well, like we saw earlier on. Thomas still 6 seconds ahead. He's extending his lead, and this is looking like a comfortable first race victory for him. 4 minutes remaining, and he's cleared most of the traffic as well. And it's a little bit of luck needed for this one, but it's a long time overdue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he hasn't put a foot wrong at all over the course of this run. Very controlled. He's been the unwitting victor of a few unfortunate issues that befell a few of our drivers up the front, namely Rizzo and Edwards. But you've got to be in it to pick up those spots when those opportunities do present themselves. And right now, Trent doing everything he's got to do to hang on to that spot and continuing to actually increase the lead over second place, Simon Nicholson. So not too bad there. Looks like Craig Edwards also has just been able to close down that gap momentarily onto the back of Nicholson as well. So our top 3 not all settled as far as where they're going to finish out the form of this race. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on that to see how it goes, as we keep an eye here on Rob Crisdale and Warwick Brown fighting down over 10th and 11th position. Not much between either of these 2 cars. We'll see whether the Ford here can gain a bit of an advantage. He's a little bit far back at the moment, just over a 10th of a second. Thinks about a move down the inside. Just clips that inside curb there. Fortunate not to contact the BMW, but does unwittingly take himself out as a result.
I think there may have been a bit of contact between the two of them. I think the combination of getting onto the curb and maybe getting a bit kind of airborne, losing a lot of the downforce, then the hit. I mean, that was great. That's why you take over moves. Maybe there wasn't contact. Maybe you're right, Daniel. And it was just the curve, but just completely off balance there when you go for a move like that. And Brown, I think, will learn after that instant not to go for such moves. because Indy Road's the next circuit that we are visiting, the old F1 circuit. Unfortunately, we don't have the more up-to-date track, albeit from my perspective, they're both equally bad. But it will still be good to visit that. It's not a track that we visit a whole lot. In fact, I think I've only ever commentated on one or two races around that circuit in all my history of commentating. I've been commentating for about 3 years now, Daniel. And I'm not sure if you've commentated around there at all either. It is, once again, nice to visit circuits that we haven't seen for a while, and that is going to be quite some sight to see the drivers go through NASCAR Turn 1 and then down the pit straight. As we just check back with Jason Benz, he's losing more places, and he's now lost out to Tom Huggan as well. But no, Indy Road should be a good host.
Yeah, it'll be a really interesting circuit. Mate, you're already 1 or 2 events up on myself. I've never been there from a commentary perspective to have a drive, but really looking forward to it. It's going to be a different circuit, as you say, very high speeds, especially down through the second to last corner all the way down to turn 1, which is really going to challenge the guys on a braking perspective. But it's very different to what we're used to, and this has kind of been the theme so far throughout the course of this championship. It's not the traditional formats and layouts that we're used to, which is fantastic. So I think it's going to present a really good opportunity. Going to be interested to see how the balance of performance plays out, because as we're seeing with the BOP changes week to week, how will that unfold? Who's going to pick up a slight advantage? Are we likely to see the Corvette coming back into play here and possibly be up? Obviously, we know it can be up the front in the form of Edwards there, but will it possibly get its first win in the championship?
Going to be the final lap for these drivers now. If anything, I think Indy might turn out a bit like this round. You know, we got the long straight with the back straight, of course you have the pit straight Indy. But then apart from that, you have a lot of medium speed and high speed corners. I guess some low speed corners as well mixed in there. I just wonder maybe if the Corvette will struggle again if it hasn't got the straight line speed. We think it doesn't, then there's really only one big overtaking opportunity, maybe 2 around Indianapolis. But through the corners, it's tricky to make too much of an impression. Benz off the circuit, and after looking like it was going to be a brilliant result for Jason Benz, running his highest 5th place, he's headed off again. But we now have shots of our race leader, Trent Thomas, the 987 car. So close, so many times last season, and it's been Trak Esports who are going to make it a 3rd win from 3 different drivers, but it's Trent Thomas's time at the top step of the podium. Thomas wins at Motorsports. Round 3 of the championship is his, and a real ignition of his championship challenge. All the Trak Esports cars looking good, albeit it might be dangerous for them to be taking race wins off one another as they are at the moment. Robert Christelle will round out the top 10. Nicholson and Edwards on the podium. Nicholson with his best result that I've witnessed, at least, a brilliant 2nd place. As the other drivers come through, look how close it is, from 10th down to 15th. Adam Hughes has he run out of fuel? Or, yeah, that looks like it's bouncing across, and I think the finish line comes up quite late, and he does lose out to Brown. There's barely any difference between them. In fact, I'm seeing 0.00 on my timing screen between the 2 of them, so that was ever so close, and that is mightily unlucky for Adam Hughes, who did take less fuel than everyone else at the pit stop. He took about half a second less fuel than everyone else. Amanda Dalton, oh, what a move this would be to finish off the race. I think the BMW is going to have the advantage, though, into the final quarter, getting back the inside, and I think that was good defense there from Dalton. Beats the elite driver of Joshua Burden, who had a tough round. So another really interesting round of the championship. 3 different winners so far this season, but remarkably all from Trak Esports. None of them necessarily have a big lead in the championship, Daniel, at the moment, but they are all really competitive. And of course, if you have your teammates around you out on circuit, that can really help you, especially when it comes to the final rounds of the championship, when you can start to coordinate a bit between yourselves. And it seems like Trak Esports are putting themselves into that position.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're going to be leading the team's championship at this point. And it's the same thing we've seen from this team over the past couple of seasons. They've been right up at the forefront, challenging for those wins. It's been unfortunate that a few events last season took their cars out of contention for the overall driver championship, but from the team's perspective, they're there thereabouts, and this season so far, with the way it's progressed and the BOP on the cars, has actually really put them in a fantastic stead to get up and take a championship victory for one of their drivers. And as you say, they've had quite a few different winners already. We're only round 3 in the championship. I believe it's only the 2 winners between Rizzo and now Trent Thomas, but they're fighting for this tooth and nail, and it's great to see that there's not a team order perspective where they're trying to just get the one driver up there. It's all open for them all to compete on a high level.
Yeah, it certainly is. And we should be able to take you through your final results then for this round 3 of the championship. We've got so many more rounds to go. We've still got 9 more rounds to go this season. Cannot wait for the rest of them. Trent Thomas wins out 4.3 seconds ahead. That gap came down a little bit now as I get deafened by the siren. Trust me, guys, you're lucky not to be hearing this. Simon Nicholson ends up in second place. Craig Edwards with a podium. Jeremy Clark, fourth race leader for most of the race. Ross Rizzo is up in fifth, but I think if he's not happy with that, 10 seconds off the lead, he should be happy with that. Certainly. Good recovery, actually, in those closing stages. Tom Hagen finishes in sixth place. Joshua Thomas in seventh. Then it was Kane Ryder in eighth. Steve Janssen in ninth, up 18 places was Janssen. Great drive. Lost a couple of places as well, but near the end, I think. Robert Chrisdale was in 10th. Good drive to Mitchell Bales in 11th, top of the amateur drivers. Then was Jason Benz, Nathan Huppert, Jacob Brown, Adam Gardner, Martin Crisp, Jay Boving, Timothy Theben, Warwick Brown, Adam Hughes, Hayden Smith, Nathan Anderson, Sean Coran, Bradley Sanders, Grant Madford. In fact, Sanders top of the rookie drivers, by the way. Then there's Grant Madford, Amanda Dalton, Joshua Burden, Chris Weitzel, Matt Morris, John Puce, Aaron Specchio, Brett Wilson, Adrian Lecty, and Adrian Block. The drivers who did not finish, in fact, Specchio didn't reach the line, but must have retired on the last lap. Drivers who didn't finish at all were Michael Healy, Ben Dell, and Lockhart Brownlee. And also Michael Barron as well, but I do not believe he took the start at DNS for him. We will now have a chat with some of our drivers, and I'm very happy to drag up into the commentary box Trent Thomas, who is your race winner for tonight. Trent, we were discussing it all the way through the event, whether or not you'd won a race before. You believe this is your first race win? Would you like to elaborate?
It's my first race in recent times, but I've actually won 2 series before, right at the beginning, series 1 and 2. I was the champion and run 11 races in a row back then.
Wow. Okay, but I imagine this one feels a lot sweeter than any of them because you've had to wait a little while. Came so close so many times last season. Do you feel like kind of your luck came back to help you stay after all that unluckiness? You get a little bit of luck today, but it was still well deserved.
Yeah, definitely very lucky. Unfortunately, with what happened to my teammate Ross, I think it was his race to lose, really. It was a netcode incident between him and Craig, I'm led to believe. So that took him out of the running, which sort of opened the door for me. And that lap happened to be where Craig ran wide at Moss as well. And I was like, oh, hang on, Craig's off the track here. And realised, oh, that's going to put me in the lead. And then I sort of, after the pit stops, I just sort of hit a groove and just lap after lap, I was just sort of just going really quick, then saw that I had a gap behind me as I was catching traffic, so I sort of backed off and just sort of got it home safely from there.
That's now 3 consecutive wins for Trick Esports, remarkably from 3 different drivers, which is something that I've never witnessed before in a series. I think we asked the same question to Ross last week, but what's changed? Because you're all running different cars. I mean, is it just extra practice or what? Because this is a remarkable turn-up.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We just sort of, I know Ross has been doing a lot of laps this week. My laps have been a little bit limited this week, but it's a track that sort of I really actually, I hate it, but I'm pretty good at it, especially in the first section of the track. I really, really love the flowing nature, and the BMW just sort of suits the way I drive the car. So I'm just lucky in that regard, and same with the other boys. Like, they're just driving cars that suit them, and that just puts us to the front, I guess.
I imagine the aim at the start of the season was to get a few race wins, but after this round, you looking towards the championship, but do you think you're going to be kind of gearing up for the championship for the rest of the season? Because, I mean, race wins are very good, but really, we've seen in previous seasons, the consistency absolutely imperative. Are you really going to be aiming for that now for the rest of this championship?
Well, in my instance, I've already missed the first 2 rounds, I think it was, and I'm not sure how many other rounds I'll end up missing, so championship probably isn't going to be on for me, so I'll just try and grab some results where I can and help out the team with whatever results and running the way we do, yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that first race win in a while. Trent, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, obviously to Ross, really unfortunate for him. I was expecting him to win that race. I was going to be happy with a third, but for a Bradbury moment for me and all the boys at Trak Esports and Trak Custom Fabrications and Pro Sim Gear.
Awesome. Thanks for having a chat with us, Trent, and we'll see you back next week, hopefully.
Hopefully. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Trent Thomas there, your race winner for Trak Esports. So we'll just give a quick shout out to Trak Racer, of course, who help out with the sponsorship for this championship. And if you're looking to upgrade your rig, go to Trak Racer. Some of their stuff is mind-blowing. Some of the stuff that they've got. So if you're looking to really take the next level in sim racing, if you're looking for a bit more performance, if you're looking for a bit more of a sturdy rig, especially if you're upgrading to a direct drive wheel, that's really important that you get a rig that can cope with that force. Certainly do go to Trak Racer for all of that, and also Acuta as well. Go to Acuta Solutions if you're looking for any rigging or safety equipment. Go to Acuta, whether you're doing DIY or whether you need it for your business. They've got a lot of stuff on there, and it's really high quality stuff. So I go to Akita and Trak Racer for them, and also thanks to Race Management Service as well for helping up with the sessions. Next up, Daniel, we are going to have a chat with our second place driver, Simon Nicholson.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Simon, congratulations on the run tonight. Let's quickly just touch back. 3 races in. It was a 16th in the first race, 9th race 2, second on the podium for race 3. Looks like the Ford's really starting to come to you now for XRC. You guys are well at the top of the championship ladder. How are you finding it out there so far?
Yeah, it's been really consistent. I've found track to track. Obviously, this track I felt pretty comfortable with it. So, I could just put in clean laps and just try and hold on to the positions.
How are you finding, obviously, the Ford's looking very good out there early on. We know that it's got the pace in the right hand. How have you found adapting to it? Obviously, we've seen some changes in BOP over the first couple of rounds. The Ford not yet getting anything on it, but how have you found changes with those setups going?
They were quite strange to get used to, I could say, from round 1. I was so used to driving the previous AMF setups with like a safe setup, bit of understeer and that. So I definitely had to adapt to it, but I feel like I'm starting to get more and more comfortable with it now. So yeah, we'll see going forward how the bops come into play with it and how it handles from there.
Yeah, definitely. Motorsports tonight, a little bit of a difficult circuit with the amount of grass that we find around the circuit there. Looks like no major issues for yourself. You picked up a few points and positions as some drivers came out. We're going to switch gears next week. We go from a tight circuit in this one. We go off to the large Indianapolis road course. Quite a different circuit to what we're used to. How do you feel that the Ford's going to go out there? And actually, how are you thinking XRC is potentially going to go out there as well?
Oh, hopefully the team goes really well. Obviously, we put in the practice and do the teamwork. I've personally never driven on the track or seen it, so I'm going to have to do a fair bit of work. But yeah, hopefully XRC can lock out a few top 10 spots.
Absolutely, mate. Well, again, look, congratulations on a fantastic start to the championship season for yourself and the team. Before we let you go and enjoy the celebrations tonight, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and thanks to?
Yeah, just thanks to the XRC team, Simcore, Trak Racer, Learn Setup, And yeah, especially all the XRC guys, just keep pushing on and getting everyone in their good mood to get up there.
Fantastic, mate. Again, from all of us here, congratulations on the result tonight. All the best going forward for the practice for Indianapolis next week, and look forward to catching up with you out on track.
Cheers. Thank you.
Simon Nicholson there for XRC Racing. Finally, we're going to have a talk with Craig Edwards, who finished in 3rd position. Craig, I mean, eventful race for yourself. You get a podium out of it. First up, the incident with Ross. Just take us through it from your perspective, those first few laps chasing him, and then the eventual collision.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I think it's maybe the 4th time that's happened with Ross and I. An incident that's not an incident, because thank you, Netcode. It keeps happening to us because obviously we're quite similar in pace, and the side-by-side racing has been pretty good. Donington 2 rounds ago was excellent. I think we ran side-by-side for 4 corners there without crashing. So it encourages you to go for it again. And yeah, I had a really good run on that lap. Looked like the Ford's tyres were starting to wear out a little bit at that point in the race, and stuck it nice and hard around the outside. I think I had a look at the replay afterwards. I think maybe I was a tiny little bit wide of the apex on the left, but yeah, the actual point of contact was no contact at all. So kind of sucks for that. And then yeah, just the first lap clear of Ross going into the hairpin just came in a lot more hot than I was lifting off behind him, and bang, straight off the track. And I was picking up the pieces after that.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked as though to us the Corvette wasn't very strong down the straight. He seemed to be in the draft, and yeah, couldn't make much of an impression. Is the Vet a bit slower down the straights, or maybe were we just maybe interpreting that wrong, and it's just the fact that the draft isn't very strong at all?
Yeah, I haven't had many Fords climbing all over the back of me on long straights, so I don't know whether there's much difference between the Ford or the Corvette. But it's definitely true that the BMW is a monster down the straights compared to the Corvette. So late in that race, when Jeremy Clark was behind me, I had to be very careful attacking Simon Nicholson to make sure that he wasn't close enough to have a run, because yeah, that thing's got some serious legs compared to the Vet.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, how would you judge your first 3 races? I mean, it's been pretty good from Trick Esports so far to take all the wins, but you're always there or thereabouts. You feeling confident about this championship charge?
Yeah, I mean, it's hanging in there. The goal each week is to be the top Corvette, and again, goal achieved, so no complaints there. Probably, I don't know, B+, maybe an A for the first round. I probably couldn't have done any more than what I did. But yeah, definitely let this one slip. Once I was clear of Ross, there wasn't any pressure behind, and I had a pretty good pit stop. Jumped a few people unnecessarily. I should have been up the road. So yeah, this one slipped through, but hopefully there'll be more opportunities throughout the season.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on another podium. Craig, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, absolutely. Big thanks to Fusion Sim Racing and our sponsors simrigs.com, Psychonic Solutions, Eclipse Signage, and Daryl Carter Plastering.
Awesome. Thanks for chatting with us, Craig, and we will see you back very soon.
No worries. Thank you, guys.
Craig Edwards there for Fusion Sim Racing, your P3 drivers. Another podium for him. I believe he's got 3rd place in every round so far, but I am not sure on that one. So, of course, another big thanks to Trak Racer for covering for sponsoring this championship. I really couldn't do it without them. So big thanks to Trak Racer for that one. Also, of course, Acuta Solutions as well. Thanks to them, and Race Management Service. So if you're looking to set up some iRacing sessions, the UI, we're on the esports side, the UI isn't great. The UI makes it quite tricky. However, Race Management Service really does make it a lot easier. Go to their Facebook page, contact Dave Clements as well on Discord or on Facebook, and you'll be able to download that. I believe at the moment it's free, or maybe you'll have to pay a little bit of a fee, but it's certainly worth it if you're setting up sessions on iRacing. And there's a few other good functions as well with it, so certainly do check out Race Management Service if you can. But but of course, we'll be back next week. If you've enjoyed this video, please do leave a like on it. We super appreciate it. Subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network because there's loads more GTE action. In fact, we're actually broadcasting the Apex Racing League GT Championship later on. So it'll be in the evening for Europeans. It'll be very early morning for you Australians. I wouldn't mind it if you missed it. But for the Europeans, certainly this evening we've got the Apex Racing League GT Championship from Imola, actually. So that should be a really fun round of championship. So hopefully you will tune in for that one. But yeah, there's loads of other stuff on the Esports Network. And also check out Apex Racing TV as well. Subscribe to our channel. Check out our social media as well on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, so you can keep up to date with all of our race results that way. And there's some pretty good content as well, some fantastic shots of all of our broadcasts. So I recommend checking all of that out. But for now, from me, from Daniel and from Scott, it is 3 for 3 so far, and we will see if the winning team can keep their momentum up at Indianapolis next time. We'll see you then.